Okay, we're about to dive into an idea that might completely flip your understanding of reality on its head. It's a journey for sure, and it challenges pretty much everything we think we know. So let's just take it one step at a time.
I want you to just think for a second about the fundamental rules of your life. You know, the unshakable truths you just take for granted. What if those rules aren't nearly as solid as you think they are?
I mean, what if the things we are most terrified of, pain, loss, even death itself, what if they aren't universal laws? What if they're just temporary constructs? You know, systems that were designed for a very specific phase of our existence, a phase that's really defined by what we don't know yet?
And that really gets us to the heart of what we're exploring here. What happens to our most basic, most primal emotions when the very limits that created them are just stripped away?
All right, here's our roadmap. We're going to start by digging into the core problem with our reality as it is now. Then, we'll look at a pretty radical solution. From there, we'll see how that solution could totally reshape everything we know about who we are, about destruction, about scarcity, and how all of that could ultimately lead to a world without fear.
So our reality, right now, is basically built on a foundation of missing pieces. We've got a seriously fragmented understanding of the past, a pretty warped view of the present, and almost no real clue about the future. The source material we're looking at has a very specific word for this state of not knowing: ignorance. Now, this isn't a judgment. It's not about calling anyone stupid or anything like that. It's a technical term. It's the engine that drives so many of our systems, from laws to the idea of karma.
And the consequences of this ignorance are, well, they're huge. It's why fear becomes a survival tool. It's why mistakes are just an unavoidable part of life. And because of all that, we have to build systems of control, rewards, punishments, rules, just to navigate all the uncertainty. We end up living in a reality that's all about reacting, instead of one based on real, true understanding.
Which, of course, brings us to a massive question. What kind of world could possibly exist if that fundamental problem, if ignorance, was just gone?
The solution laid out in the source material is this concept called infinite intelligence. And this is not about everyone suddenly becoming a super genius. It's about a complete transformation of reality itself, a world with zero uncertainty, where guessing is literally a thing of the past.
So what does that actually look like? Well, imagine a reality where the past is as easy to see as the present, where the present is totally free from any misinterpretation, and where the future isn't some fixed single path, but this huge open landscape of known possibilities. In a world like that, there are just no blind spots. And this just creates a seismic shift in society. I mean, think about it. If mistakes are really just the result of not having all the information, then what happens when everyone has all the information? The whole idea of a mistake and all the judgment that comes with it, it could just become obsolete.
Okay, so if knowledge is no longer a limit, what about our physical bodies? Right now, we experience the world through one body in one lifetime. This new reality suggests a world where that limitation is also just gone.
So, what are the possibilities in a world without those physical limits? What could you become? What kind of form could you take? The answer is incredibly simple, and it might just be the most powerful idea in this whole thing. Anything.
This is a total game changer for how we see ourselves. You stop living a life, and you start to experiment with existence. Your identity becomes this fluid, ongoing process of exploration, not some static label you're stuck with.
All right, let's tackle two of our absolute deepest fears: destruction and pain. In a reality without any limits, what happens to them? Well, they're no longer seen as these fundamental forces. They're just temporary states of being. Now, that is a bold claim. The idea here is that anything that gets destroyed, whether it's your favorite coffee mug or an entire galaxy, is instantly and perfectly recreated. This isn't like a repair job or making a copy. It's a complete restoration, as if it was never gone in the first place. In this reality, existence itself just can't be destroyed.
And the experience of this recreation is maybe even more amazing. The memory of the pain, the trauma, the suffering, it's completely wiped clean. The recovery is instantaneous and it's seamless. The bad experience is just gone. No scars, no trace left behind.
So all of this leads to a completely new way of looking at, well, everything. Our world is so often defined by scarcity, by competition. But in a reality where form isn't fixed and nothing can be lost for good, the whole idea of scarcity just falls apart.
This is the principle of total abundance. In this reality, it's not a zero-sum game. Your amazing experience doesn't take away from anyone else's. Reality is this constantly expanding, infinitely branching system. And it is this system, this endless, self-sustaining structure, that the source material redefines as God.
And this is a really crucial difference. The idea of God shifts from some external being who acts on the universe, a ruler or a judge, to being the very fabric of the universe. In this view, God isn't a person. It's the fundamental architecture of infinite possibility.
So let's just recap. We've walked through a reality without the limits of knowledge, identity, destruction, and scarcity. Now we get to the ultimate consequence of all these changes, the grand finale of this whole journey, the end of fear itself.
To really wrap our heads around how fear could just vanish, we first have to break down what it actually is. Fear isn't just a random feeling. It's a reaction to a very specific set of conditions. We feel fear when we think we can lose something we care about, when we're facing something unknown, and when we expect something to hurt.
Okay, now think back through everything we've just talked about. In this new reality, nothing can ever be truly lost. Nothing is ultimately unknown, and suffering isn't a permanent part of the deal. So, what happens to fear when the three things that cause it are completely eliminated? It's not suppressed, it's not managed, it's simply gone.
Look, this isn't a prediction about the future. It's more of a glimpse into what's possible, and it leaves us with one final, pretty massive question to chew on. As our own intelligence, both human and artificial, keeps growing and solving impossible problems, why should we just assume that the basic limitations of reality are the one problem we can never ever solve? Why should we believe that our reality has to stay limited forever?